Am I the a-hole for getting my neighbor's car towed? I recently bought a house and moved in. The previous owner rented the house out to students and transformed a big part of the front yard into a parking space. My front yard is basically just 4 parking spaces. I live alone and basically only use one of the parking spaces. But while the painters, handymen, and gardeners for the backyard were there, they used the other parking spaces during the day because the nearest community parking spaces are half a kilometer from my house, so about a 5-minute walk. When they were done and I moved in, my elderly neighbor, who cannot walk without a cane, asked if she could continue the deal she made with the previous owner. She showed me the contract she made with the previous owner that states that she can use it in exchange for a home-cooked meal once a month. I told her she didn't have to give me anything as I understood her situation, but she insisted. So I signed a contract to let her use the space closest to her house. This went well for a couple of months before another house in the street was sold and the new neighbors asked if their handyman and painters could use the parking places until they were done, as it was not handy to make them walk all the way to and from their truck. It is not allowed to park on the street in my street. I told them it was fine, but only the handyman and painters can use the spaces. When they are done, I don't want others I did not make a deal with using my parking spaces, as I like to keep the spaces clear for my girlfriend, friends, and family when they are allowed to visit again. Fast forward a month, and the handyman and painters are finished with the house, and the new neighbors started using the spaces. I told them this wasn't what we discussed, and that they had to leave. They told me that the spaces are community spaces, and she and her husband could use them as I didn't need 4 spaces for myself. I told her to move the cars, or I had them towed. They moved the cars and didn't use the spaces anymore for about a week. As soon as she parked her car there again, I immediately called a tow company, and half an hour later, her car got towed. The next day, she came up to me asking where her car went. I told her I had it towed because she parked in my front yard. My friends tell me I'm being a petty a-hole for having her car towed and should apologize. My girlfriend tells me I did the right thing, as they would have probably claimed my entire front yard as their personal parking places if I didn't make a point out of it. So, am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It's absurd of her to claim that your private property is community space. She's acting very entitled, and you did the right thing by having her car towed. Hell, if anything happened to her car and it got scratched, she could sue you. You should probably put up a sign though. Parking only with explicit permission from the owner. All others will be towed. Maybe a camera too, just to make sure they don't try anything. That's actually a pretty good suggestion. I will look into having a sign made. Thanks. Not the a-hole. You warned them what would happen and they did it anyway. I don't understand why they would need to park there, and I don't think you have any moral obligation to let them slide. Plus, them trying to claim it as community parking, despite said parking being in your yard, is just ridiculous. They probably need to park there because a 5-minute walk would be the end of the world. My friends tell me I'm being a petty a-hole for having her car towed and should apologize. Easy. Tell your opinionated friends that they should let their neighbors park on their front lawn or driveway. Then, and only then, would the advice they offer and the reprimands they give you have an ounce of worth. You are the owner of your property and have a right to decide who can park there. Community spaces? Lol. The issue here are your neighbors who have no respect for your wishes and want to bend you to their desires. Continue to issue warnings and towings until the problem corrects itself. Not the a-hole. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for putting ugly one-way mirrors on windows facing one of my neighbors because I saw the husband looking in my windows? I live in an apartment on the ground floor of a house that was converted to apartments. My neighbors, one street over, but the back of their house faces the back of the house I live in, can see my whole backyard and vice versa. My apartment has a whole wall of windows that are on the back of the house. It's gorgeous and is a big reason I picked the place. I love keeping plants and it let in a lot of light. Looking out, there is the neighbor's backyard, which is large and comes up close to my place. The property line is maybe 10 or 15 feet from my windows. Once it has gotten to be warm out, I've noticed the husband of the family owns that house looking into my apartment a lot. Even sometimes I look up and see him, look away then look back minutes later and is still looking. So I started shutting the shades during the day, but that was kind of annoying. My place is a dark, cramped shoebox without the windows open. And I can't do that for too long because the plants were struggling without light. So I bought these window coverings that make windows into one-way mirrors. During the day when it is light out, my windows look just like mirrors now. From the inside, it looks pretty much the same. The windows look tinted, slightly darker, but that's it. From the outside, you can't see in at all. It looks exactly like mirrors. The section of windows it's applied to is about 8 feet high and 20 feet wide. After a week of the window coverings being up, both of the parents from the neighbor's house came to my door and wanted to talk to me. The wife was complaining about the windows for a lot of reasons. 1, they were ugly. 2, it wasn't comfortable, especially for the teens and their friends, to have a huge mirror adjacent to the swimming pool. It's at a time that they feel insecure about looks and they have lost interest in hanging out by the pool. 3, in the afternoon and evening, it was reflecting a lot of extra sunlight into their backyard. They couldn't enjoy eating dinner on the back porch with the sun in their eyes. I said sorry about the inconvenience, but I wanted it for privacy. They both pushed back on that some, and I said that I needed privacy because of the husband staring. He started denying it in front of his wife, and so I took out my phone where I'd taken pictures and sent it to my group of friends and showed her a couple pictures of him gaping at my apartment and the texts from that time. He got mad and said he incidentally looked over, and the 8-foot by 20-foot mirror was a crazy overreaction. I said that I'd like to keep it, and that I was sorry, but frankly, this was avoidable. I think they're both mad because they called my landlord, who brushed them off. Am I the a-hole for putting the mirrored film on my windows? Not the a-hole. You proved that you needed privacy because your husband is a creep, and they're upset for being called out. You don't owe them anything. And if your landlord hasn't contacted you about it, then you don't need to do anything that you don't want to. He's only mentioned offhand that he got a call from the neighbors. He brushed them off, saying he didn't care, and he just wanted to know how they got his number. I said I didn't give them his number, and that maybe they found it on one of his listings online. That was it. Laughing my butt off. That conversation sure didn't go the way they thought it was gonna go, did it? They got all self-righteous and indignant about their poor teens with their low self-esteem and insecurity about their looks. And oh no, now they can't swim anymore and it's your fault. Honestly, what a load of steaming BS. I would have loved to hear the conversation between the wife and her husband when they got home. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You only put it up because he was staring at your window. Whatever his reason, that's pretty creepy, especially since it seems to be happening a lot. Tell them you'll only consider taking it down if they put up covers on their property which stop the husband from being able to see in your window. If they don't like it, then too bad. Any complaints from any other party who doesn't like it should also be directed to the peeping husband. Exactly this. Wish Opie had said how the wife reacted to the photos. Betcha creeper husband slept on a couch that night. She actually jumped to his defense, saying that when houses are so close, sometimes you end up looking towards neighbors' houses but not trying to, just looking off into the distance, thinking probably. Yeah, he was thinking real hard. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for asking for compensation for something my kid destroyed? We hired a babysitter we've had a few times at a good rate of $20 per hour since it was only for 3 hours in our home. The babysitter is a 19-year-old woman if it matters. I think maybe the age will affect something. My wife had to rush to work in an emergency, and I was already at work. The babysitter is already familiar with some of our rules, like our 3-year-old is only allowed in the living room, playroom, and dining room when eating. The babysitter, I guess, had an emergency herself and had to be on the phone for 20 minutes. For some reason, she decided to take the call outside. Her rationale was it was private and didn't want our child to listen in. In those 20 minutes, our daughter was able to move the couch to the living room gate, scale the gate, head into the basement, and pull one of my guitars off the wall. The neck is all warped, and my luthier said the neck needs to be replaced. I'm asking the babysitter to front the bill on a new guitar. Not a repair or neck replacement, as the alternatives diminish the value of the guitar. Mismatching neck to body severely impacts value, and the neck repair does too. It's $2,200. Am I the a-hole here? Or is she? Her parents are telling us we're responsible. She's offering only to have babysat for free, and her friends are saying we're too harsh, but it was her responsibility, right? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Your valuables should be insured and locked up. Your baby gate should be secured. You are responsible for buying a couch that a literal baby can move. What kind of couch is that? You are responsible for interviewing, hiring, and training your employee. You are responsible for your minor child's actions. The babysitter is partially to blame, sure, but you also share a large portion of the blame. The babysitter would be responsible for a portion of the repair, not a brand new guitar. Your demand for a new guitar means you are trying to profit off this, and that's why you're the a-hole. Music shop manager here. I'd also like to point out that if the guitar's neck was warped and not broken, there's almost no way it could have been done by the babysitter/child. Necks only warped for a few different reasons. 1. Being stored in improper environments with unregulated humidity. Funny you mentioned he stores it in the basement, which can be the kiss of death if it's unfinished or without a humidity regulator. 2. Truss rod adjustments. 3. String over tension. 4. Having weight against the neck, say keeping it leaning at an angle against a wall for extended periods. Unless the child somehow made a truss rod adjustments, obviously not, it would have taken a very long time for that neck to warp. There's no way it could have been done in 20 minutes. Opie likely has his instruments stored improperly and as a result, caused his own neck to warp. I think this situation is reason for you to stop hiring her as your babysitter. But asking a 19-year-old to pay you $2,200 for something that was ultimately destroyed by your child is too much. She failed in her duty to supervise your child, so you're justified in not hiring her again. But other than that, how can you possibly expect her to pay you all that? It's just unreasonable, as is the fact that you're not asking her to repair your guitar, you're asking her for a new guitar. Come on, dude, you're the a-hole. I'm not sure the babysitter should have left the kid alone, but you're the a-hole. Accidents happen, and she wouldn't be babysitting for you if she had that kind of cash laying around. I would be more pissed the kid was able to get to the basement and move a couch. More importantly, is your kid a bodybuilder? Moving a couch is a feat. To recap, you have every right to be frustrated, but you're the a-hole for trying to get a babysitter to pay for something your kid damaged. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for ignoring my nephew after he stole an important $50 bill from me? There's a story behind that bill, and it mattered a lot to me. My best friend Henry and I knew each other since we were in middle school. In high school, we were pretty adamant about being child-free and swore we'd never have kids. We decided to make a little bet though. First guy to have a kid owed the other $50. It was a dumb bet that didn't really take seriously, and I completely forgot about until 9 years later. I was with Henry at the diner once for lunch, and he slips me a $50 bill. It took me a minute, but when it clicked, I was so ecstatic. Still one of my fondest memories with him. Two grown men hugging it out at a diner in tears after giving me the news that he's going to be a dad for the first time. His daughter was born after that. I was honored to be her godfather. Then, unfortunately, we lost him all too soon when his little girl was 5. It's been 3 years since then, and I still miss him. We were like brothers, and I kept that bill as a memento. I see my goddaughter all the time, so the bill is also a reminder of the first time I learned of her existence. Kept it in a small box with other sentimental things of mine on top of a dresser in my room. My sister is staying with my wife and I, along with my 16-year-old nephew. They all know about this story, by the way. I've told them before many times. A few days ago, I noticed the box was in a different spot than where I left it, and that's when I discovered that the bill was gone. He eventually confessed what he did because I was frantically looking for it all over the place. My nephew needed the money because he wanted to take his girlfriend out to eat, but my sister wouldn't give him any cash since he spent all his allowance money. Honestly, I was so furious, and I'd ask him how he could do that, knowing that it was one of the few things I have of my best friend and he stole it. My nephew kept apologizing, but I couldn't look at him. My emotions were a little too strong, and I just wanted to get away from him before I started yelling. My sister offered to pay me back, but she damn well knows that's not the same. However, she's saying I'm being too hard on him because I've been ignoring him the last couple of days and is feeling ashamed enough. She's apologized on his behalf, but does think I'm taking it too far. Right now, it's still all fresh for me. That bill was important to me because of the memory it holds. Now it's lost, and I'll never get it back. I'm not at a place where I want to talk to him yet, but my sister feels I'm being somewhat of an A by punishing him like this as he's already learned his lesson. I'd just like to know if I am. Not Dayhole. I doubt there will ever be anything this boy can do to mend the pain he has caused. And as sad as that is, he is 16 and needs to take accountability for his selfishness. His mother really needs to look at herself because she raised a child who decided, knowing the context, that his actions would be acceptable. Truly horrible situation, and I am so very sorry for you. I would recommend you go to the place they ate to see if the owner still has it, as generally places only do banking once a week, so you may get lucky. Thank you. Don't think there'd be much luck there, unfortunately. He said he broke the bill at the CVS before they went to go eat. I don't see ever getting it back, and that still stings. It might be worth going to CVS to see if they still have it. Do you have any pictures of the bill where you can see the serial number? Or by process of elimination based on the date? Not Dayhole. I mean, at a bare minimum, he stole your money. More than that, he stole an important memento he knew about. At 16, I can't help but think it was calculated. He's not sorry he did it. He's just sorry he got caught. I'd weighed on the side of it being impulsive and thinking myself. It would also have been relatively easy for him not to fess up. I suspect he's regretting having done so.